Hi guys, it's Blackie. Oh, excuse the mess. Everything is pulled out and everything else. All these trips in and out. I've had to shift this over here and get that and that's got over here, got everything else, and I got family dinging me. So it's please excuse mess because it's a mess. And let's see there. Hopefully that'll take care of that. New messaging. Okay. Close. Good. There we go. Good evening to Newfoundland, Canada, and Tad Geringer. Geringer. I'm sorry if I butcher that. Silvershire. Hello there, Indiana. Rhett McCory. Good evening. Spade Tiller 6656. I gotta get my distance right. Got to see it right. Hello there, Gary Graham. Good evening. Tracy. Hello there. OCD Hunter. Hello. Randy Benson. Good evening, and thank you for a happy birthday. Smoking Captain Black and Prince Albert mix. Cool. Pipe Smoker 8. Hello there. Dancing with Empties. Good evening. Lonnie Long. Hello to Western Pennsylvania. Bucky 1836. Good evening. Gray Wolf. Good evening. Richard. Hello. Tennessee Smoky. Hello there. Okay, let's see. Bucky. Coon Bucky is your nickname. Okay. Good evening from Columbia, South Carolina. Hello there. John Loudermilk. Hello, brother. Tracy, happy birthday, 39th. Yeah. You can add some more digits in there, a couple more decades to that one. Terry, hello there. Glad to be here. Justin Coon, gotcha. Charles, hello there. So, I might turn that off. All right, let me turn the volume off on the notifications so they can. There we go. Notifications. And turn all that off like that. There. Now be quiet. Okay. Striker doing pretty well. Thank you very much. 2020, hello there. War Donkey, all right. Be safe, hit it home. Sean, what's going on this evening? Oh, getting everything ready. I had planned on going to Georgia Bushcraft and camping. I wasn't teaching anything, but I was going up to camp. However, Mrs. Blackie, when I was telling her that Dave Canterbury and crew was going to be there, and the Christophers of Lost Ways are going to be there, and all these people I've been talking about for the last several years are going to be at this Georgia event. And she said, one day I want to go and meet these people. And I said, well, do you want to go up? Well, she doesn't want to go camp because it's going to turn cold Saturday night. And so she said, but I'd be willing to go up for a day. So if she's willing to go up, I'm going to take her. And so we're going to leave out dark 30 in the morning, and we're going to drive up there to Georgia Bushcraft and just do a day thing so that she can come around, see everything, meet everybody, etc. So that's my game plan for tomorrow. We shall see how it lips out. You know how that goes. Blackie, do you think you will do a video on making a homemade sling for a Hawkins? Possible. Yeah. We used to rig up things like that to carry it in the field, especially whenever we were going to be transporting from A to B to the hunting site and we didn't want to carry it in our hand. We would rig up an improvised sling that would hold on to it. So I will think about that, see what we can do. Zode Seeker, hello there. Okay, Blackie Thomas, what do you think manufactured parts are the easiest to fit an original 51 Navy? Looking for internal parts to fix the trigger, return, and lock work. Usually go look at Uberti. Their stuff is the closest of the two, usually. And if you're looking for original springs and stuff, go that way. I've worked on original guns before, and most of the time it was Uberti parts that I ended up getting to be the closest to fit it, and have to do a little bit of this and that to make it perfect. But usually Uberti. And Dixie Gun Works has got all the parts, and so does usually Track of the Wolf. And there used to be, I don't know if it still is, I haven't looked in years, was Uberti USA, and you could get parts. Plus, Taylor's and Company sells parts as well, and they carry a lot of Uberti. So those three might be a big help to you. How often does Georgia Bushcraft have events? Twice a year, one in the spring, one in the fall. And the fall is usually the biggest because of we've made it through the summer. It's finally cooled off. Everybody wants to get out here and enjoy it. So usually the fall is the biggest. Buck 112, good evening to Rome, Georgia. Dance with Empty, glad to do it. Hoggy 1963, hello there. Patriot Preacher, good evening. Yeah, I went down and did the Rewild gathering, and that was a really good time. I taught a class on fishing, foraging, talking about improvising and how to, little bitty things about how to come up to the water's edge and stuff like that, how to get in a pattern, colors to use, things like that. And I talked about when it's, forget about game, we're trying to feed a family or we're trying to survive using weirs and things like that in a way to get food out of fishing. So I did that class. And then Ty Barker, who's one of the lead instructor, I believe it is, for Pathfinder, he came up and we went to Coughlin's Military Surplus on Monday and spent several hours digging in there. So he found a bunch of stuff that way. And then it's just been one thing after the other this week. Oh yeah, we got to do this, and by the way, we got to do that. So it's my busy time of the year. Hopefully I will get everything caught up, and be back on track next week. I'm thinking about getting a Condor kukri knife. How is the fit and finish? They're actually well built, and I think they're pretty decent. They really are. Andy Knight Muzzleloader. Blackie, I'm looking forward to your next CVA percussion video. It won't be long. Now that it's cooled off, I can go out there and shoot. And we're going to revisit the percussion rifle. We're going to revisit shotgun. And we're going to talk about some flintlocks and some other stuff. So it will be coming. As well as I showed y'all in the percussion series last Saturday where I've got that CVA. I will not be posting that for this Saturday. There'll be another video dropping in. But for next Saturday, we're going to start with the barrel group. And we're going to go through and troubleshoot all of it. I know we need to work on the crown. I know we need to work on the forcing code. That loading lever is way too tight. The front latch that holds the loading lever is way too loose. We're going to pin it in place and things like that. So we're going to go step by step through that. So we're going to go through that whole brass frame 60 Army. And then we're going to polish it up. We're going to blue it really good. We're going to make it look new. We're going to play with it for a little bit. So that's coming. Tad, I have seen the auto open butt 110. Pretty cool. Marvin Carpenter, you're fine. Yeah, about a Scab's rewild knife fit. Scab's awesome. He really is. He's really made light years progress in his camping ability. He's been a knife guy forever, but he's getting more into the camping, the bushcraft, the woodsy type stuff. And so he's really a great guy. I'm really proud to have him as a friend. DJ234, hello there. Flash in the pan, good evening. Jimmy Dunlap, good evening. Stranded in Las Cruces, New Mexico currently. Whoops, sorry to hear that. You were supposed to have a good cold snap rolling in that they're talking Monday morning. It's going to be down in the 20s down here. It feel like it, if nothing else. And they're talking about wind chill here. It's going to feel like 24 on Monday morning. So, yeah, time to fire up the fireplace. Going to be good. I got about 2 cords of firewood put up for this year. And so we should be okay. The power shouldn't go out for that for us. Now, if you had a nice storm, yes. But for just cold temps, our stuff won't kick off for that. So we'll be okay. Will, how do you like the Bertie Cimarron conversion revolvers? The only conversion I have is an 1871, and it's not truly a conversion. It's where you got the 71 was where they took the 60 Army and turned it into a cartridge firearm. It's got a loading gate and everything. And there will be a video coming up in the percussion series very shortly on the 1871. I think it's an hour-long video where I talk in depth about it. But I really like mine. It's accurate. I've shot it out to long range, and I really do like it. Mine's in 45 Colt. They had to make it a little bit bigger because the original 45 Colt didn't have nothing of a rim on it to speak of. I mean, you could barely hang it with your fingernail. That's the reason you never had lever actions like the Winchesters in a 45 Colt, because there was nothing for it to grab a hold of to extract. See? And it was in modern times they added a rim to it to put it in double action revolvers to kick it out. And so our modern 45 Colt's got a like triple the size rim on it. And to make those rims fit in that cylinder, they had to scale it up just to grunt. I don't know how much. It's maybe like 8% bigger. But when you put it up side by side with a regular percussion cylinder, you can see it's a little bit bigger to take all those rims and make it work as a 6-shot. But I go in depth in that video, and I will be posting that in the near future. But I really liked it. I really do like it. Did you go to the military warehouse in Hona? No, I did not. I just went to my local one at Kaufman's in Sampson, Alabama. Christopher Evans, good evening. I hear you, Justin. I hear you. I hope you get to feeling better. And I hope that block helps in the long run. Gray Wolf, I hear you. Hope you're doing well. Ravenwood Survival, good evening. Well, what kind of winter are we going to have? Right now we got 15 to 20 degrees above normal out west, and we got an Arctic front diving in. That sounds like it's going to be cold, but it's going to be a wet, cold winter. It's what we call it down here in the South, meaning that it will warm up. You will have rain, and then temperatures will plummet right behind it. And then that'll be here for a couple days, and that front pushes out of the way in the next wave, and it'll just be alternating between warm and cold, warm and cold. If it does that, I'm going to move the if this holds up, let's say to the end of the month, I'll move my spring gathering date up into March, because it's usually the last 2 weeks of March or the first 2 weeks of April. I adjust it based on the weather, what kind of winter we got. If it's a cold winter, I back it all the way down into April to give us a chance to get out of that. And if it's this alternating hot and wet and cold, then I move it up, because otherwise the skeeters are hatched out. I'm trying to hit that. That's the time period. I want it to where we can have daytime highs in the high 60s. So at night it's maybe in the 40s, so you'll enjoy a fire. But the skeeters ain't hatched yet. That's a big thing, because the spring hatch is horrible. Cow Tipper, good evening. Tennessee Smoky. Yes, Georgia Bushcraft this weekend in Watkinsville, Georgia. I will be coming up for the day. Me and the missus will be coming up tomorrow. We'll be there most of the day, and then we'll drive back tomorrow night. I was planning, like I said, on camping, but if Mrs. Blackie wants to go up there and would like to meet these people, I will take her. You know, I mean, she's put up with me for 35 years. She deserves it. If she wants to go, say the word. We're going, baby. Bert the Lurk. Cool. Good evening. Hippo, I'm glad you enjoy it. I missed y'all last weekend, and I will be back on next Thursday night. So we'll be doing good. Yeah, biggest crowd will be on Saturdays up there for sure. You know, I've been to Georgia Bushcraft, and it's a really good event. I mean, it's a lot of people and a lot of stuff, and I get to see people I don't get to see any other time during the year, because a lot of them are higher up in New England or something. They don't come this far south except for Georgia Bushcraft, or out to the west or etc. They come and do the event. So I've made a lot of good friends that way just by getting to meet them at Georgia Bushcraft, and I do enjoy going up there. It's just, you know, if she wants to go, we're going, you know, because if she puts up with me after 35 years, if she wants to go up and meet Dave Canterbury and meet, you know, Ed Schneider and Jack Shenega and the Paul Christopher and his wife, Becky, and G, yeah, I'm going to go. Yeah, I'll be glad to introduce her to everybody. Oh, you just found my channel last week and you're liking the black powder videos. Thank you. There'll be a lot more of those coming. Hello there to Leesburg, Georgia. Awesome. What is the name of the store? Are you thur? Okay. Oh, the Hona Pass, South Carolina. Huge. I got you. Old Man of the Forest. Thank you very much. Yeah, I just got, while I was up there at down there at the Rewild Outdoors, I got a lid to go with my skillet. This is the 8-10 inch, whatever it is. It's a smaller version of the case hardened skillet. Really, really like this. And Dave's now got actual lids that fit it. Okay, nice and snug. Well, I normally keep the handle on regular, but like I've showed you can just squeeze it and take the handle out. And so you put the handle in using the false loop there. And so you got your regular skillet. Well, remember when I first got this, I showed you could squeeze it and take the handle out, turn it upside down, put it back in, and it would allow you to hang it. Well, when I got the lid, work with me here, man. Come on. There it goes. I figured out something that you see the lid is loose, right? And this will be coming up in a video. Whenever you lock it into position, there we go. All right. Come up and lock it into position and slide the thing down. It pinches the lid and holds the lid tight, sealing that up. And I'm thinking I might be able to use that like a little steamer or something. I wonder if I could steam rice in it. Put like chicken broth in there and then put dry rice on top of it. Get it to a boil, and just as it's good and boil, slap the lid on, clamp it on like this, and that would seal it up tight all the way around. And just put it up, hanging up high in the, a little bit of warm over here, and would it steam rice? I don't know. There'll be a video coming out of that pretty soon. We're gonna work on it and see. But I thought, plus the fact being able to put it a little bit rebated, I can put coals on that top. We'll see. I know I can do pizza in it, so we shall see. Tennessee Smoky, are you familiar with a cattleman pocket knife? Yes, I am. Pipe Smoker, thank you very much. War Donkey, that's awesome. Is the missus into bushcraft and camping like you? To a point. She did live in history with me for 25 years. And she doesn't get around quite as well as I do. And so she will still go and camp out a couple of times during the year. But it's going to be cold, and she just don't want to go in the cold. And she knows that Saturday night temperature is going to drop like a rock. And so, no, she's just going to skip that. But we'll ride up there, walk around, enjoy the day, and then we'll head back. So she does come out occasionally and camp with us at my gathering. So, Tad, glad you enjoy them. There will be more discussions with Grouch coming up. Gary, Blackie, does Kaufman's have canteen cup lids? I have not seen any there. I have found them online, and I have found them at SRO before. But the heavy cover lid like I use, I think they discontinued that a few years ago. But I have not seen any of those cover lids at any of the surpluses. Ravenwood, are you going to be doing any more of the Ground Pounder series? Absolutely. I got a lot more stuff to do. It's just I'm dancing around a lot of different. Now's the time to do the cooking and the Ground Pounder because it's cool. It's not so hot. See? And so I will be doing more of the Ground Pounder series. I know I want to do some more modification of gear, like modifying chest rigs and stuff like that, and modifying harness sets, modifying Alice packs, stuff like that. So I've got a few things to keep up with. Oh yeah, Tennessee Smoky. Those Rough Riders are, for the price, you can't beat them. They hold an edge really, really well. I mean, yeah, they are good knives. Silvershire, yeah, I'm sure steam would pop it open, but at the same time, you can bring it up to temp and then let it hold that heat. You know, like I said, just bring the broth up to a good rolling boil, then dump the rice in it, swirl and put the lid on and lock it and set it off where it's just warm. It might steam that rice. I'm gonna try that. We're gonna see what it does. Matt Flannerly, hello to Kentucky. I hear you, Justin. You're my prayers, brother. Sean, you deer hunting this year? Me and Bear plan on deer hunting this year. Oh, Blackie, have you ever used the old Marine Corps Crossman Bolo? Yeah, I did. I used it as like a kukri. I had original Corpsman Bolos from World War One. Found a box of them at a surplus place that I was working at for a little, little Christmas money. and uncovering stuff. It was old MP Surplus and Pinkard, which is long out of business now. And I was digging through, and I uncovered at the bottom of a pile this wooden crate. And when I opened it up, it was Bolos and the sheaves marked 1918. And they wanted $10 a piece for them. And so I bought all 15 of them and gave them as Christmas presents that year. Those are worth like $300 something a piece now in collector's market. So, but I did use one, and it worked well as a light hatchet. It does good. Kukri's better, but it did a good job. Okay, Marcus 2415. Hello. What about the budget camper series? Oh yeah, we're blowing the top off. We're going to put insulation into the top. I had planned to doing that for the summer, but the heat, I just couldn't function in it. And so it will be done this winter for me to have for spring camp out. And so we're going to blow the top off. We're going to seal up any leaks. We're going to make improvements to it. We're going to insulate it. We're going to run some lights into it that can be turned on at will. That take no power to speak of. And I've already made a few different modifications. Not long ago, I showed where I put the lock onto it and rebuilt the entire door so it now locks. That thing hadn't locked in years. Now it does. And so I'm bit by bit making headway. And I will be doing more videos on the Redneck Camper series. We're going to be working on that with budget camper, beer budget camper, you know. Yeah, War Donkey, I hear you. Rob Schlegel, good evening, brother. Hope you're doing well. Rob, I'll be glad to tell you what I know, and we'll talk to some private sources that do a lot of hunting down there, and I'll see if I can give you good places to go look. Just hit me up a little closer, and I'll see what I can do to help you out. Blue crawfish. You got one of the World War I bolos. They're awesome. I see that you like the Alice system. You ever tried the Marine Corps ILBE in and out? Yes. I struggled with the Alice system for 20 plus years. And then I shifted over to right over my head right there, the German Alpine pack. And I demonstrated in my video for the ground pounder about having all my stuff on the LBE. But about 90 is where I stopped doing all of the LBE stuff. And so when they went to the vest and everything else, they just seemed to be hot as all get out to me. And having the chest rig and everything, that would just sweat me to death. And so to be honest, I just never put a lot of time in it. Well, thank you to Chris and Bob in Southwest Ohio. Gary Graham, sleep well. Thanks for dropping in. Oh yeah, Hippo. I know you did live in history, and I assuming you did primary out east, and I'm in Utah and believe the focus primarily on the mountain man era. Any advance for the potential newcomer? Yes. The mountain man era was one of you had looser clothing, less tailoring as compared to earlier, to be honest. It is an easier thing to get into. You can take corduroy pant, not corduroy. Dadgummit. It's the big yellow jackets their work. It starts with a C. But you know what I'm talking about. It's those work jackets and stuff. Okay, they make work pants out of the same stuff, and it's out of a heavy canvas that take the rear pockets off of it and take the belt loops off of it and make suspender loops onto it. And you've got something that can pass for mountain man era. We didn't invent belt loops till after the Civil War. Before that, it was always suspenders. And they didn't run a belt around their waist like we do. They would run a sash further up between their belly button and the top of their sternum, bottom of their sternum. And so sashes, things like that. The books of buckskinning would be really good. If you want to make your own gear, go look at Dixie Gun Works. They sell all the patterns of the mountain men shirts and etc. They're easy to do. They're meant for people that don't have a lot of experience in it. Practice. Go to the Goodwill and get old bed sheets that are no good. I don't care what color they are. You're going to practice sewing the pattern together until you get the idea how to fit it to you. Then buy good material and make your shirts or your pants or whatever. You know, the Riverboatman shirts are really good. So hopefully that'll help you out. Old Man of the Forest. Yeah, I think it'd be really good for cooking rice. Like I said, I'm going to try it. We use a lot of aluminum John boats down here. Yes, that's one of the RNS Outdoors. It does work. The lowest that I've had reported is from somebody that was 28 below in Alaska. They said it was still, you could still dab your finger and it'd come off. It wasn't froze solid type deal. And that's the thing I had about the other competition that ends with butter that Thompson Center makes. Great product. But the problem is once it got below 40 degrees, you couldn't squeeze it out of that tube to save your life. You know, and so it just became something I couldn't carry in the field and utilize. And I wanted gun butter and boar butter. Gun butter is the one you want. It's a little softer, and you can just bear down and get it out of there pretty easy. And so it does work down below zero. At least that's what I've been told by somebody who said it was a 28 below and it was still usable. Left in his truck overnight, and he said I was able to just bear down and wipe it right out on a rag. So. I've never got to use the Alice and wonder if it's worth switching. To be honest, the Alice is always a second choice for me. Just for my body, it just never fit me right. Now, I know a lot of people that love the Alice, but I'm tell you that the Alice pack just never truly fit me. It always felt like I was either doing that, being pulled, or I had to walk hunched over with it because of the angle it was. It just never balanced on my body unless I had a light load in it. War Donkey. Capote. Gotcha. Carhartt. That's it. Thank you, War Donkey. Carhartt. The Carhartt pants. They're heavy canvas. All you got to do is just take off the back pockets. I can only tell you, Blackie, what do you think about the Ruger Scout rifle in 350 and 460? Is it up for rifle for hunting for big game? All I can tell you is the 350 was designed for short range work, and I'm not sure about the 460. I have no experience with the 460, but the 350 was designed for short range work. Originally, the 350 came out in a AR platform, and they've adapted it over to being a rim cartridge now to go into lever actions and stuff. And it's a good, but you're basically a 35 Wallene or a 35 Remington. It's just in a modern case. And so if you would look what a 35 Remington does and then compare it with a 350, you'll get a good idea. So big game at close range and you can place your bullet, yeah, should be fine. But it wouldn't be my first choice for a long range cartridge. Yes, thank you for pointing that out, William. Crazy Crow Trading Post, they sell stuff as well. Gray Wolf, that's just it. When you got good stuff, thank you very much for the birthday wishes. When you start, uh, they tell you in the thing how to make a capote is you take your blanket, the blanket you just spent $200 on, and you're supposed to make a little nick in it and grab a hold and just it will tear in a straight line. You tear a blanket in a straight line. I'm cutting that puppy, and it very precisely with a pair of scissors. I ain't be my luck, that sucker would run sideways. And when you buy good quality material and you're scared to cut it, like I said, start with another material. Go get bed sheets, whatever that are no good. You get them, Goodwill for cheap because they're stained, and cut them up and practice until you're confident. Then cut up that expensive material, because that is not the stuff to be practicing on to figure out that you cut it too small or it's too thin or it's too short or all them things where you can't lift your arms because it'll tear out right there. That's when you want to get the cheap stuff to practice with. Blackie, have you seen Sean Kelly's new rucksack? I only saw his video. It looks pretty good. I haven't actually seen one up in person yet, but it looks pretty good. Thanks, William. William said in the Marine Corps they use both Alice and Molly, and he'd prefer the Alice. So thanks for the feedback. Gonzalez, yeah, story time with the old timers. Me and Grouch are going to spend more time now that it's cool where we can sit out on the deck. Yeah, we'll be doing that. I agree, Gray Wolf. Scouting 308 or 7mm8 would be a much more practical thing. I like 308 because ammo is available everywhere. Well, at least down here in the lower 48. I don't know about you guys up north, but down here you can get 308, 9mm, 30-06, 30-30, 270 is just everywhere. If they're going to order anything, they're going to order those. I want to know if I'm supposed to shellac the grips when the edges wear down. At any time, you can add another coat. Now, what I do, now I don't know what your grip's been done with, okay? What I prefer to use is go to a craft store that has painting supplies, for like oil painting, easel and canvas oil painting. And amongst that, you're going to find boiled linseed oil. That is really refined right there. And that's what I prefer to retouch up grips with. Because all I do is just put the tip of my fingertip, just touch it, get a drop on it, and start rubbing. And keep rubbing with your finger and generate a little bit of heat. Use all three fingers. And do that's what hand rub finish. That's what they're talking about. Until it kind of dries a little bit. Okay. Maybe have to do another little drop. Do it one drop at a time. You can seal up and reseal. And then if it's not quite like you want, give it till tomorrow. Every day you come in and you look at it, go, no, it ain't quite what I want. Do it again. The day will come, you'll look at it and go, yeah, that looks good. And you ain't got to do no more. And what it is, it's absorbing it in micro layers. And you can build back up. So if it's just worn and the whole grip doesn't look bad, but that edge is kind of getting a little bit, you can do that and kind of blend them together. But boiled linseed oil in the paint department for artistry. Now, yes, you can get it in a hardware, but it's not nearly as refined, nor is it's thin, it's thicker. I prefer the really, really thin. It's almost like water to refinish grips with because it penetrates in so much better. Uh, uh, Leota, thank you very much. Pieta uses a spray-on bowl linseed oil, is what they put instead of shellac. Ooh, how did I not stay caught up? Okay. Okay, business class economy. Yeah, putting bluing on guns with perm blue. Perm blue works really good. The best stuff I've ever found, you got to get it from Brownells, is Osphoto Blue. It's OSPHO TO, Osphoto Blue. It loves oil, and it's what they use on the assembly lines when they're working on guns in a factory to do it. If it gets a little scratch, they just take that and put it on it because it does like that, and you don't have to degrease it and everything else. In fact, it likes oil, and we're going to be using that when we do the barrel on the brass frame 1860. I'm working on for percussion. We're going to do it with that because it does a superior job, in my opinion. Okay, let's see if it's device for who is ringing my bell. Oh, okay. Excuse me 1 second. There we go. It being my birthday, everybody, family, friends, everybody is sending me well wishes. Hippo, it looks like it's not going to happen for us to get the canvas for this run, the last run of the year. So when I get back Monday, we're going to make the final decision. And if we can't get the canvas because the factory can't supply us with the canvas, we're going to cancel the final run for this year, and I'm going to refund everybody's money because I haven't passed that on yet. And but Monday I'll get the final word for sure, and I will do a video to let everybody know that they're getting refunded. We will do another one after the first year, but until the factory can get us the canvas, we can't make it. You know. And they said, "Oh, absolutely, it's going to be there. Oh, absolutely. When's it coming? Oh, we had to put the date back. You know what I mean? So, something a problem in the supply chain getting it J to make it to get it to us. So, yeah, Jeff Conley, the boiled linseed oil you get at Home Depot and stuff like is thicker, and it's really meant for doing like furniture or something like that, and it works well, but it's thick. Whereas you go to the painting department for artistry paints, oil paints, and you'll see just small bottle of, and it'll say boiled linseed oil, and it's much more refined. It's thinner, and it goes on so much easier, and you can get such a better. I used to refinish, especially when you go to refinish like a 1911 grip with all that checkering on it. If you use the stuff from Home Depot or whatever, it just gob on it, and you wouldn't see the checkering; it'd fill it to the top. But with that stuff, I could actually work it in there and you'd still have all the checkering. See? And so that's one of the reasons I changed over that years ago. Burgess 44, thank you very much. Will, in your vast experience, have you ever used one of the M37 pickups? I drove an M37 pickup back in the 1980s on a job for about 4 months. They were still using them. They're part of the county. Still had a lot of those surplus vehicles, and it was an old M37 ammo carrier. And it would pull anything, but it got like 8 miles to the gallon. So that was the disadvantage. It was bomb proof, but it had a top forward speed of like 60. Excuse me. And you fill that sucker up, and you can just watch the gas hand go. I mean, she sucked fuel like crazy. Oh, 2020. Have they reached you regarding your extended warranty? Oh, I get those phone calls quite a bit. Matt Thompson, hello there. Let me tell you what I did on one of those phone calls like that. And that they were, we're calling you to get your warranty and stuff like that. It was a telemarketer kept bugging me. And I recognized that number. And I was out at the shooting range, and the law enforcement was on the other side of the berm in the other bay. And they were doing mad minutes where they were starting with their ARs and they were running two mags back to back, wide open. Then they transitioned over to their shotguns and cycled them through. And then they pulled out their automatic handguns and ran them through. And it was, how many shots can you do in 1 minute type thing. And I heard them, it's 5 officers at a time doing it, and I'm on the other side of the berm, and I saw that thing ring, and I'm hearing them over there getting, all right, on 3, 2, 1, I'll let it ring and let it ring. And then the minute they start off going, I keyed I answered the phone. I said, this is Outpost 2. We're under heavy fire. I need a fire support team. I went to barking all this stuff, and they could hear gunfire going like crazy, and I made up BS on top of BS like they had suddenly, phoned into somebody's military campaign and went, oh, incoming, and hung up. They never called me back, strangely, FB Bugler, glad you, oh yeah. I love to take a lot of that's the one thing that I really like to do, taking like an off the shelf Civil War replica, like an Enfield or a Zouave or whatever, and I refinish it myself. And I make it look like a either brand new off the assembly line in 1863, or I'll make it look like a war veteran that's been there and come back down. And I did that a couple of times with Zouaves. I always just seem to stumble into Zouaves, and I like the Zouave. And I would strip it, I'd completely refinish it and stain it and make it look like an original, defarb it a little bit, not trying to fake anything, but just make it look. And I'm going to demonstrate this technique about how you can age the brass. And I'd age the trigger guard and all the brass parts, make it look old. And then I'd get it together, and I might hunt with it half a season, and somebody would have to have it, So I'd have to let it go. GSTWO23. Hello there. I have not done any metal detecting other than just in passing with friends. It was never a hobby of mine, but there are tons of places around here to do it. Thank you very much for the birthday wishes. Yes. Blackie, have you ever had any experience with CRKT knives? I've had several of them in the past and really liked them. They made good steel on them. What gauge is 1/10 of a centimeter thick steel? 1/10 of a centimeter would be. You got me. I'm coming up blank. All the numbers I would do for that would be way too big for that. Gray Wolf. Actually, what I do is I use vinegar and salt. I put it in an enclosed container and I hang it. I clean it really good, shine it and polish it up, and degrease it, make sure there's no oil on it. And then I hang it in a closed container that I can seal up. And I put vinegar and table salt in, and I seal it up and let the fumes get it. And let it go for about 6 to 8 hours. And man, it looks like something you just found on a Civil War site. It is just awesome. Now, to do the frame on that cap ball, you got a steel base pin there. It'll rust the snot out of that. So what I do is I grease it, and then I'm going to seal it up real tight and then hang it in there to keep the fumes from getting to it. But we will talk about that a little later on. Oh, cool. Send me some more tallow stuff. Good. Thank you for the birthday wishes, Bert, and good night. Dan Davis, thank you very much. Blackie is 59. Yeah, right. I've been in my 60s for quite a while now. Google says it's 12 gauge. Okay. Everybody knows we can trust what Google says too. "12 gauge steel is 1/10 of a centimeter." Okay, cool. Okay. I saw your video on the Chinese stainless steel tracker and I bought one for myself. It works very well. However, I never quite caught the trick. Table salt and liquid instant bluing. Take a small, I prefer to use a small glass, something like a shot glass. I'm not going to use for anything else. I'll know it, but glass works best for this. I will put a pretty good bit of table salt in it, and then I will add the bluing and make it kind of like a slurry. It's not a liquid and it's not a paste, but you know what I mean. You want the salt in there though. And then I'm going to take a swab and I'm going to apply it to that stainless steel, and you can blue stainless steel with that combination, and it will actually blue it, and to make it dark, and it prevents it. In fact, that knife, I haven't already given that knife away. No, I didn't. Come on now. That's it. Which you can see, it's been that's dirt and tarnish and everything else. I loaned it to a young friend of mine that wanted to try out a tracker. And I said, if I re-edged it, re-beveled it all the way around. And it makes a really good fleshing tool. That's what I know what Tom was going for, but really this is a better fleshing tool, because this you can choke up and use it like an ulu for skinning, and then turning around this crescent right here, when you drape a deer hide or something over a log, that's the fleshing tool where you could push, hook your thumb up there and push away from you. And it does pretty good for that. And like I said, I've cleaned fish with it. I've done a lot of stuff with that. And I've had several people say, Blackie, what do you think of have you ever tried one? No. Here you go. Try it. And several people have decided to go get one. Several people have decided to actually buy the high dollar tops, which is not in any way deterrent. They make a really good quality product. And so it's worth what they charge for it, the steels and the heat treat and everything else. But I tell people, if you're wanting to just try a design, you've never had anything like this, start with a cheap one and realize it's a cheap one. But if it doesn't grow on you, don't spend the time on the big stuff then, because it won't grow on you any easier either. Since you're not a woman, how old are you now? 65. Would a 38 shoot a hole in 1-inch pipe? If it's hardened pressure pipe, no. If it's PVC pipe, yes. If it's standard water pipe, possible. Copper pipe, yes. Marcus, hey Blackie, if you were going to buy a new hunting rifle, what brand and what caliber would it be? I know the caliber I'd pick because I've got so many years experience in it, and that's 30-06. With a proper 30-06, I can take anything on North American continent, but I've got a lot of experience. And as far as brand new, I don't know. to be honest. I've been out of it so long, I have not spent a lot of time with it. Savages were decent guns for the price. Remingtons were, but Rugers were, but again, I haven't had any hands-on with them in quite a while, and I don't want to lead you astray. But the caliber I'd pick would be 30-06, but that's just because I'm old. BK, thank you very much. Cool. Old Mexican knives from 1900, 1910. Cool. Robert Schlegel, yes, Trinity still has, and she's got some for this run right now for the Cordura haversacks. Black weldable pipe. Depends on the hardness of it. I wish I could tell you differently, and I ain't gonna guarantee it's gonna make a clean hole. It's probably gonna dent its way through. Gerald Martin 1738 or B. Good evening. Yeah. Tidcas are good ones. Matt Flannery, thank you very much. Okay, Scott. Blackie, what do you think about a small double bit pocket hatchet like Nesmonk's? How can it be used for splitting since you can't baton it? They made wedges, is what they did for bigger stuff. And you got to read between the lines where he's going. He's going in fairly easy woods, and he's just using pickup off the ground. He's not trying to fell trees or anything. And he's at best maybe splitting it one time with that little hatchet. So how would you use it would be to make a hardwood wedge with it, take it and sharpen and make a wedge. And then chop really good and get a line going, and then put the wedge up there and turn the axe sideways and use it to pound the wedge in. You could split a bigger piece of wood that way. No, I hadn't heard of a G Hawk. Sorry. Yeah, there is a big wall difference between Schedule 40 and Schedule 80. I used to teach how to do, for a survival skill, how to take PVC pipe and take Schedule 40, Schedule 60, or Schedule 80 and make a bow out of it, because it's a very worthwhile skill. All I need is a heat source. A campfire can do it. Stakes driven in the ground so that once I heat it up and that PVC becomes flexible, I can put it into a pre-made up pattern on the ground, stick it in sticks and bend it around to shape it into a recurve bow shape and let it harden in 10 minutes and put a bowstring on it and have a shooting bow. Because world goes sideways, there'll be a lot of PVC pipe and a lot of abandoned buildings. So it's a really worthwhile skill to understand. The best guy I saw at it was Backyard Bower. He was a young man out of Hawaii that was making all kinds of bows out of PVC pipe. And I was very impressed what he did. And one Christmas, I got some PVC pipe and got all the neighborhood kids, and we made bows in the backyard. I just built a campfire, and we'd heat them up. And I'd use an oven mitt to kind of roughly shape them and heat them up and put them in a pre-shaped set of sticks on the ground, bend it around this one, bind it up on that one, and have a recurve bow, let it dry for maybe 10 minutes, cool off, pull it out and string it, and you had a bow. And let the kids practice with bows. Tad, glad you like the Cordura one. and we've been doing a lot of different stuff, and I've been busy with that. I mean, we came in. I put the roof on the house 35 years ago when I was a younger man, and after all these hurricanes and everything, it finally just given up the ghost, and we needed to start over. And so it was pulling the decking off, making sure all the rafters was good, putting new decking on, new. They don't use felt anymore; they use that white stuff, and then putting new shingles on everything, going around and sealing up all the way around, and just a big dang job. And so for the past 3 weeks, my house has been all kinds of workers coming in and out, and us doing everything trying to get it up. So I've been kind of way behind. And next week, once I get back from Georgia Bushcraft, I'm free for a little bit. And I had been asked to go over to Tifton, Georgia next weekend for an event over there. However, as my darling blushing bride of 35 years was apt to point out to me, that is our anniversary weekend, and she already has plans for our anniversary weekend. So, yeah. So I will not be going camping next weekend. I will be doing anniversary things next weekend. Washburn Billy, thank you very much. Gavin Hawk. No, I'm afraid that it doesn't ring a bell. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Well, PVC bow, Schedule 60 makes like a 50-pound bow. And a Schedule 80, depending on the maker and everything, I have took Schedule 80 and made a longer bow. You got to make it longer. It's not a true long bow, but it was longer than a standard recurve, and it was a 85-pound draw. And there was a big GI on Rooker that was teaching him, and I made that bow. And so I want something to kill a deer. Well, you can kill a deer with a 40-pound. Most of the Native American bows are 35 and 40 pounds at shot placement and being close. But they say a 50-pound bow, 40 to 50-pound bow is what most states require. And so anything over that is just, bragging rights. The problem with it is that 80, if you shoot something up close, that arrow may go clean through and not leave that big weapon hole. He's still going to bleed out, but he's not going to bleed out here. He may get gone a ways, and it makes it, it's better to leave it sticking out of him so he bleeds out faster. Norman, I will think about that. I might need to do that, do a video on. I believe I did, but I believe I did those 5 or 6 videos back in like 2011 or something like that. So I am still working on my playlists, going back and harvesting and putting them into playlists. So you may see some old videos pop up from time to time where I'm putting modern algorithm on it, because back then I wasn't even doing it for classes. I was just doing it as a hobby. And so I may have a 45-minute video on doing something. The title of the video might be What I Did Tuesday. I mean, it had nothing to do with what's in the video, so you can't search for it. And so I'm going back and finding videos like that, and I'm redoing them and putting them back where y'all can find them, making it searchable. Oh, man, I hear you. Had our 40th anniversary while you were having your gathering. Hope you get to have many more of those anniversaries. True. And that's the thing. How accurate is your chronograph? It's all a best educated guess in any kind of ballistics. And when I did gunsmithing and I would do custom work with it, and they'd say, oh, my bullet's moving at 2,800 feet per second. what's your chronograph? Well, I don't own a chronograph. Then where'd you get the 2,800 feet per second? Well, it says it on the box. That was out of a test barrel that may have absolutely nothing to do with your personal gun. And so I have always have a chronograph, and I have shot their gun that was 2,800, and whenever it shot 2,400 feet per second over an actual chronograph, they suddenly didn't think so much of their gun. So always, always, always get a chronograph. And if you're interested in learning reloading and stuff like that, get a chronograph. Correct. You can increase the draw weight of a PVC bow by inserting a smaller diameter. But it, like I said, if you go up, like you schedule 20 is a little bitty light 15, 20-pound bow. Perfect for starting a kit out with. Schedule 40, little more respectable. Schedule 60, that's a hunting bow. Schedule 80, you're just showing off. And I have seen industrial schedule 100 pipe, but it's rare, and they probably even don't make it anymore. My knowledge is from 20 years ago. But they used it as a high pressure PVC line, short sections of air line. Couldn't have 100 foot of it, but like short sections. And I won't, hell, that'd probably be a 150-pound draw bow if you can make one. It becomes just stupid after that. You can't hold it. So. Yeah, exactly. You can't, you reduce the limb speed. I agree, Gray Wolf. Limb speed is everything. And like I said, I'm sure he's still on YouTube. Go find that guy, Backyard Bower. He shows how to flatten out the limbs to flatten out the PVC into a flat form to make it act more like, and how to split it to bring it together to make the tips. See, instead you got a nice big flat piece, squeeze the PVC pipe flat, and then what I'll do is I'll cut a big V out, and they'll heat it up and pull those two together, and that will become your knock up there. He does a very good tutorial in it, and even how to decorate it, make it look like wood and everything. Really good guy. What diameter PVC we're talking about? Like 3/4, 1 inch, something like that. Hello, Bear. Bear's in the house. What I used was like 3/4 of 1 inch. Was what I was doing back then. What's a good gun brown besides plum brown? I want to make my guns look like the rest of the Texas revolvers. Go look at Dixie Gun Works, and in their bluing and browning, they had plum brown, but they had another type of browning. And it's not plum brown, but it's browning solution. There's a difference. Plum brown and browning solution. Get browning solution if you're going for more of an antique finish. Now, if you look in my tutorials in my percussion revolver series, I show how I do it with just plain old bluing and water and let it rust and then card it a little bit. I can get that antique finish without having to go through that. But try browning solution as opposed to plum browning. Burgess, I fully understand. Life gets in the way. I'll be holding another gathering in the spring. You're always welcome to come up. Ground fog, hello. That's correct. A lot of the Confederate guns painted black, brown, blue, whatever they had, to be honest. Yeah, Watchman Burley. When I was teaching archery, I had a guy came up and had a way overpowered bow. I had an Oneida Eagle when they first came out, and that thing was ridiculous. At full power setting, I could put a broadhead clean through a pine tree. It was designed for dangerous game. And it had warnings all over the thing about do not ever shoot a wooden arrow. It would just grenade. And they recommended you have a metal arm guard on it. And I had mine and was shooting fiberglass, aluminum arrows. You might get 3 shots with an arrow, and that was it. That arrow would be all wavy as all get out. Fiberglass, it would go for a while, and then that fiberglass is going to crack and grenade. The carbon fiber arrows really became a thing because of the Oneida Eagle. And then, like the year after I got it, they stepped the feet per second. My feet per second was somewhere a little over 500 feet per second. And they stepped it down like 350 feet per second in the second year because they got so many threatenings of lawsuits where people had pulled back on aluminum arrow or whatever and let go, and it just came apart right in front of them, you know. And it was too much bow, but it was designed for shooting big, dangerous game like rhino or elk. Rhino or grizzly or, you know, taken to Africa. So you can have too much bow. You ever try a hardcore hammer, brand, hatchet, or small out? I have seen them and I have held them. But I have not used one yet, but they look really good. Why can't I find a Remington new police reproduction? They didn't make them. They make that little bitty pocket Remington and they make the 58. There are 4 or 5 Remington frame sizes. And Mike Bellevue talked about that the pocket and the police size would be just a perfect size in a 36, but they just didn't make that frame size. It just wasn't that popular, I guess. Trooper, hello there. What do you think about the 22 Hornet? Really good cartridge for varminting and stuff like that, and then you can put the heavier bullet in and shoot something like whitetail, pronghorn, the smaller deer with it. And in fact, it's reloadable is a big advantage. It's an older cartridge. The 223 kind of does the same thing, but I would recommend that you use it somewhere in the target animal. Either those guns came up to be the transition between a varmint gun and a deer gun, because in many of the states you only have like a 1 week big game to hunt deer, and the rest of the year you're shooting prairie dogs and jackrabbits and stuff. And so they wanted a gun that you could shoot all year long on prairie dogs and jackrabbits, and then be able to still take a deer with it. So it's considered the like 243, 223, 22 Hornet. And there's a bunch of others considered the transition caliber from small to big game. And so the Hornet does really, really good. It's an older cartridge, but the good news is, being so old, they worked out all the details a long time ago. And it can be a very effective cartridge for its wheelhouse. Blackie, what do you think of the Rossi 3030? Is it a decent lever gun? Yes, it is. Rossi was bought by Taurus, who was bought by Beretta. So they're all under one house. And the 3030, from people I know that are 3030 fans, have said that it's a little rougher than some of the others, but it shoots very well. So if you're looking to get into the game of the 3030, the Rossi would be a good choice. Where can I get 32 for my antique Smith 1.5? Good luck. Old Western Scrounger is modern Navy Arms. They import stuff from overseas. Sometimes they have ammunition. Also check with Sarco, who they import all kinds of stuff out of Europe. They may have it. And you may have to just go online and start looking for batch runs, because a lot of those old 32s, 32 was very, very popular in the past, not so much today. And so you just have to find out. Some of the European, especially manufacturers, will do limited runs, like 32 short, 32 long, Smith & Wesson 32, Colt 32, etc. And so just find out from that. I wish I could help you more, but I haven't had a 32 in 30 years as far as a cartridge gun, so I can't help you any better than that. I'm sorry. Ricky Brock, good evening. Solid Snake, doing well. Have you ever tried using an emergency space blanket as an overnight shelter? I have, the SOL. I did on one of our survival campouts, one of the pocket ones you put out and put over. In fact, I carry one of those in my vehicle. And it will, as long as you use common sense and insulate yourself from the ground and try to prevent wind and put up a fire in front of you and etc. It can be a lifesaver. It's noisy to lay in it, but it does work. Do you prefer wood grips or hard rubber grips on your revolvers? Wood. I'm an old school guy. I just prefer wood. Have you personally tried the Lee hand loader? I have a collection of Lee hand loaders. Yeah, I have. I've used them from 357, 45 ACP, 44 Magnum, 30, 30, 30-06, 270. I've used a lot of them. And for somebody just starting out, they work great. They really do. But get a Lee hand primer. The Lee hand primer, the most awkward part of the Lee hand loader is putting a new primer in. You got to bang on it. Just get a Lee hand primer and the proper thing, whatever, and do that. You can reload perfectly good ammunition with the Lee hand loader. And you can, with the primer, you can prime it. So that'd be my recommendation. The Lee loader package, be a good choice. I've loved Lee products for 40 years. Have you ever spent time in the Southwest in the desert or to camp and practice survival situation? I have not. I have been out on the Great Plains. I've been to the deserts, but I've never had an opportunity to camp out there while doing it. It was always for business, where I was driving a truck delivering military radars or whatever out there. So I've been in that country, but I've never done any camping out there. So I'm sorry I can't give you anything on that. I hear you. I don't want to spend $1,000 on a Marlin or a Henry either. And a Uberti 94 Winchester 3030 is like $1,400. You got to understand, guys, when I was most of my life, 94 Winchesters and 336 Marlins were all over the place, and they were $150 rifle in the pawn shop. That was the first gun you got to hunt with, other than a single shot. The first rifle you got was normally a lever action. And then when you grew out of it and you wanted a 30-06 whatever, you got rid of the lever gun, you got you a 30-06, and they went back to the pawn shop. So those guns rotated through God knows how many generations. And then whenever Winchester went out of business and stuff, they got snatched up as collector's items and just it dried up. So Lee is absolutely the best for the money. I agree. The Lee will not oh, you talking about doing the tapping it in and primer goes? Yeah. Probably won't. They worked that out. But like I said, that's the most awkward part of it, is putting the primer in the little cup, sitting around on top, running the thing down and tapping the primer in. The Lee hand loader is just 10 times better to do with it. And I've reloaded with Lee for 40 plus years. So yeah. Thank you, Bear. Burgess, my first deer was taken with a Winchester 94 30-30. So was mine. My 94 was an octagonal barrel, full length rifle that my granddaddy had. And he had a box of shells that were duds. That every time he had a bad shell that they had clicked on multiple times and it hadn't gone off, he saved them for some reason and kept a box of them. An old Remington, the old red and green box Remington. And, but it wasn't from one box. It was just over his long career. He would always save those shells. And so I was 8 years old and I bugged the snot out of Granddaddy to take me hunting. And I was just a hyper kid, nobody wanted to be, you ain't going to go hunting. We hunted for real, for meat, and a kid would just ruin everything. And so nobody wanted to take me. And so Granddaddy finally out of death just had heard enough. And he looked over at me and said, "Are you really seriously wanting to go hunting?" "Yes." "Then be ready at 2 a.m. I'll be here to pick you up." Well, by God, 2 a.m., I was standing on the front porch. I was ready. He picked me up and he putted me about 18, 20 miles down in Geneva County. The buddy of his, and they were rebuilding a tractor. And this is early part of November, right before my birthday. So 4th, 5th, something like that. And him and his buddy, who worked on a military base and got off at midnight, and after 2 a.m, they were rebuilding a tractor out in the barn. And so he was going down there anyway. So he dragged me down there. He took his 30-30 and pulled 2 of them dud shells that had been multiple strike. These are deads. They're never going to go. And he loaded them in the gun. And so he walked me down there and sat me down between these big old clumps of yopon against this big oak tree and said, "He'll be coming right down that way," and pointed up the cow trail. And then he went up to the barn about 200 yards up. He figured I'd get scared. I'd come running up and that'd be the end of it. I didn't. I sat there in a little quarter moon. And we got there about 3 a.m. He put me out there. Sunrise was like 6 something. And so 3 hours I sat in the dark with that gun, propped up, looking everywhere. Knowing the gun, I didn't know that. Granddaddy was sure that gun can't go off, so you're safe. And right at gray, dusty dawn light, this fork-horn buck, he had 3 points, a solid and a split, come walking straight at me. And he'd stop me, he'd look left, and he'd look right, but he never looked straight ahead. And he kept walking up, and I'm sitting there, got my knees up to my chest. I'm propped up on top of it in my best Matt Dillon pose, trying to aim this gun, not knowing what I'm doing. And the deer suddenly stopped. When he stopped, I yanked the trigger, and the dang gun went off. The bullet went right at the joint corner of his eye socket right there, straight through the back of his head. He poleaxed and fell off. Meanwhile, Granddaddy and his buddy up there drinking beer, rebuilding that tractor, heard the gun go off. And I heard the other guy holler, "Dear God, he shot a cow." And Granddaddy's going, "I thought you said there was no cows in that pasture." He said, "There may be a calf or something." So they're coming running down there. And he's telling him, so the gun can't go off. I'm telling you, that gun can't go off. It's dead ammo. And when they got up there was that buck laying there. And so that was my first deer. The Lord, answered little prayers for little guys trying to put meat on the table. No, Lee isn't the one I'd pick for ammo plant. There's more production, but you got to remember, if you're doing like a hunting rifle where you only need 20 rounds a year of 30-06, this isn't a target gun. I'm going to go shoot 100 rounds this weekend. If you do that, you need at one of their auto presses or one of their turret presses. I use a turret press because I can shift from handgun to rifle, etc. And I'm going to do a couple of hundred rounds, 200 to 300 rounds in, let's say, a pistol caliber, like 44, 45, something like that, because I got lever actions and handguns in the same caliber. And as far as a 30-06 or something, I'd only need like 20 rounds for a whole year. 5 or 6 decided in, make sure it's still on point, and I'm good for the year. 15 rounds is all I need. If I get 15 deer in a year, I've done a job, you know. So you don't need high volume. On the other hand, if you're shooting a 9mm or a 40 cal or something, and you're wanting to do matches, look at their auto sets that every time you pull the lever, a loaded round falls out of it, where all operations are automatic. Then that's worthwhile. You can do production then. What is the biggest caliber you've ever shot before? 8 gauge. Did you make chaps from deer hide? Nope, sure didn't. I have made buckskin before, though. Have you ever used your cap and ball revolvers for defensive purposes? I have carried it for that reason before, but I luckily have never had to pull it on anyone before. The situation never warranted such a thing. I love those stories from your youth, Blackie. Glad you do. You know, I look back on a lot of them things and I laugh about them, you know, now, but it wasn't funny at the time. But it, you know, there were some things that my life has been a Forrest Gump. You know, I had somebody a while back was telling me, said, you need to write a book. No one would ever, ever believe it. My life has been like a Forrest Gump. I have known big name people. I have known princes, literally a prince from Saudi Arabia. Corresponded with him for quite a while. He'd come to the company I worked for and we became friends. I have known people in royal families out of European nations that just met me. I have known lots of different people. My life is like Forrest Gump, and no one would ever believe it because I've just been very, very lucky and blessed. Yeah, Ron, I hear you. Correct. The lead does force you to go slower and there's less chance for mistake. That's one of the reasons I use a turret press. I'm watching one operation at a time, not an auto where 6 operations or whatever is going simultaneously. And so if at any point I think like, I put it to the side, I'll pull back apart and start over. I'll resave my components out of that. If there's ever a question, it gets pulled apart. Don't just put it in. And so that's the reason I'm putting one in at a time. I put one in, I create a round. When I pull it out, if I am not happy 100% with it, that is as good as I can make it, it goes in the discontinue pile. And that one, when I get done with everything else, I'll use the bullet puller and I'll take it right back apart, the raw components, dump the powder back in, take the primered case, put the bullet back in the thing, and rerun it again, you know, until I am happy with it. Because, God, had a friend with 45 ACP, and he had a different, I think it was RCBS set, and it was progressive. And he loaded 1,500 rounds over the course of about 2 weeks. And we went out to shoot. And he dumped them all loose into an ammo can. Okay. We had gone to the range, and I think on his 3rd magazine, he pulled the trigger and it went pop. And knew better than to try. And we had a stuck bullet quarter way down the barrel. There was no powder. So we had to tap the bullet back out. That wasn't a big deal. But there was obviously no gunpowder in that one. And then after it was cleared and we were safe, we went back and he loaded back up. Well, just a fluke. 8 or 10 rounds later, kabam! had some double charges. Which one of those 1,500 are bad and which are good? You can't tell the difference. And so we spent the next couple of weeks, I'd come over and help him, pulling all of those back apart to start from scratch and go slower, because he was in, man, every time you pull this lever, a loaded round falls out. And it didn't realize that he had double charged some of them, because he'd come almost all the way up and go back down, and it didn't click. So, yeah, slower is better when you're dealing with ammunition. I did not. I know about the UPS plane crash, but I have not seen the footage yet. Yes, I will be doing the grips on my new project gun. That's the thing. It's just raw. They just roughly shaped it. I get the idea whoever originally did it probably used it for like a Civil War, just a showpiece, and just never finished. I can't tell if the gun's ever been fired. And so therefore I'm going to finish the grips, do all that. It's got a lot of unique things. Like on one side, the grip's actually a little too short. There's a gap there. I'm going to show you how to fill that in and make it fit better and hide flaws like that. Blackie, do you know by chance what would be the best barrel length for like a suppressed 22 long rifle? I would say somewhere in the 16 and a half, 17 and a half inch range. Just saying. But if you're already going to get a suppressor on there, you're probably already going to be, SBRing it and everything else. You get down so far, your accuracy goes to pot, because the bullet generates its velocity in the barrel. If you shorten the barrel down too much, the velocity never gets above, because once it hits the suppressor, that reduces velocity. And so you get more internal pressure and the bullet cavitates and your accuracy goes to crap. Go look at the well rod and things like that, where they worked out the exact length of the barrel they needed. Look at a lot of the classic military 22 silenced weapons and see what their barrel lengths are. And that'll give you an idea, because trust me, they worked it out to where you got enough velocity to stabilize the bullet with the rifling and everything, where the suppressor didn't completely screw that up. Too short a barrel, it just screws it up. Had a good friend of mine that had he went through the legal channels and he got SB short barrel, paid all the stuff, got all the permits and everything, and he had a Ruger Mark II with 1 inch of barrel, and then he screwed on a suppressor on it and thought that'd be perfect. It had garbage can lid groups at 15 yards. Oh, it was quiet. It's all get out. That's all you heard. But the bullet was not stabilized. There wasn't enough rifling, and it left the rifling, all that chaotic of the gas inside the suppressor destabilized the bullet, and it used wipes on them, wearing those out quickly, and he had no accuracy out of it. I mean, literally 30-inch groups were possible at like 15 yards with that thing. They just randomly went everywhere. And that's one of the things about when you start playing around with ballistics, life can get really complicated. You can buy an original 1873 without an FFL. Anything made before 1900. So if you bought a single action army that was made in 1880, there is no paperwork on that. But a modern replica does have to be. It's still, even though it's a copy of a gun from back then, it's date of manufacture. So if a gun was manufactured prior to 1900, it's automatically an antique and you don't need an FFL for it. Which I've always wondered about that, because, okay, that's an antique, right? Yeah. They had Maxim machine guns in 1896. Huh. Yes, it is still live. A 357 and a 22 is a good choice. It really is. Exactly. Cartridge antiques are always going to get abused because of transition, because you got to look at how the time is changing. Being born in the 1960s, I was 100 years after the Civil War. I was only 60 years after the Wild West. See? And so now you're 120 years from the Wild West. So any original antique prior to 1900 is automatically 125 year to 150-year-old gun. 150 years old. And then look at, like, I want to go back even farther, that I forget the name of it, but it's where they went and found all that stuff in Nepal, the armory in Nepal, and brought all those guns back in the U.S. And they had original Brown Bess muskets that had been sent to Nepal. These guns had been made in 1800 and had been surplus to Nepal in the 1800s, and they came into the U.S. So that was a gun that was 225, 230 years old when it came in the door. It's relatively a new gun. You know, that is strictly an antique. You know, don't you want one of those? A modern replica is a lot better steel. You know, I have owned original guns, 73s, single action armies, stuff like that. And I'm here to tell you the modern replica is a better gun because of the metallurgy. And you get a much more well thought out gun modern, even though you're still using the old toggle action on a 73. Today, we got lawyers that'll sue the snot out of you if you make an inferior gun. So the modern gun is much higher quality than any of the replicas. So any of the originals. Correct. Royal Tiger Imports. Oh, cool. Yeah, the Nepal best actions. Yeah, I hear you. You know, Grandpa was born in 1870, and last grandkid, 18 kids, was 45. My granddaddy was one of 18. So, yeah, it stretches out. Blackie, can you talk about trench foot and what it is? Our foot care is going to be important before long. Trench foot is immersion foot. It's where your feet have, it's a unique thing to us humans amongst all mammals, is the fact that if you get into a pool, you get into a tub long enough, you wash dishes long enough, your hands will puff up and the bottom of your feet will puff up. It'll actually absorb water and makes you have more grip in the water. We're unique in all the creatures for that. Nobody else, no other mammal does that at all. Well, the disadvantage for that is if you have sopping wet socks from perspiration or from immersion foot, today they call it immersion foot. Back in them days, they called it trench foot because those trenches were full of water and you were just standing in water for hours and hours. That skin puffs up and bacteria starts getting in it. You get blisters rub, and that bacteria gets underneath and into the actual foot, and you get a fungal infection in the actual meat of the foot and the fatty tissue, and it causes all kinds of problems. And so you have to be treated for it. Eventually it'll turn black and rot, you know, and stink. My God, it stinks. And it's live bacteria feeding on you. There is no native cure of it other than that I know of is boiled red oak bark because of the tannins in it. You can soak your feet in that, and there's a possibility that could curb it. But other than that, trench foot is something that anybody can get if your feet are wet all the time. Can you get it in snow conditions? Yes. As long as you're walking through slush or something like that and your socks get wet and your feet just stay cold and wet for hours and hours, Frostbite is what happens in the cold, and trench foot's what happens in the heat. So that's about it. Drying your feet, foot powder, fresh socks, big thing. Yes, legally you can buy modern guns from friends and people that you meet. At this time, there isn't any law that I'm aware of that says you can't. Um, but now, like I said, I like cap and balls. They're very effective once you learn how to use them. They're just as effective as any other. They're just slow to load. But I like the challenge of it, like people do archery and stuff like that. I like the challenge of it. And so I have carried cap and ball for hunting and even on occasion self-defense, because usually it's going to be over in one or two shots either way. And if I pull out an 1860 Army or blow a huge smoke ring in their direction, I think it'll get their attention. But they work if you know what to do. Washburn Billy, thank you. Didn't get the whole best, just got the action. A Roger Ranger carbine, cool. Michigan Silverback, good evening. We got about another 15 or so minutes before we're going to be getting out. Oh, yeah, Gray Wolf, I hear you. Well, like I said, up there in that neck of the woods, it's, I don't know what did that. Up there in that neck of the woods, it's, wet. Whenever it's not frozen, it's bog. So much of that land is permanently frozen. If it ever thaws out, it's just a gigantic swamp up there. And trench foot, etc. Plus, waterproof boots and stuff like that are great, unless water comes on the top of them. Your depth gets above the top and water comes in around your leg, in which case your pants will just wick it in then, and then you cannot dry it unless you take the whole thing off. And I've worked in conditions where I've had minor frostbite on nose and fingers and ears and toes and stuff like that, but nothing major. I was lucky. But it's just, but I know guys that work in the swamps down here. They were puckwooders, and they're going down the swamps to cut these big old cypress and stuff like that, because a lot of the furniture companies were buying cypress to make cypress top tables and stuff, and so they were worth big money. But you were standing in knee deep muck and swamp for 8 hours or 10 hours or 12-hour days trying to slog in there, get it. You couldn't get any vehicles in there to it. Cut it down and then use come-alongs and other things to slowly winch it out till you could get to something with a long enough cable you could actually hook it and drag it out of the swamps. And those guys got trench foot bad because of it. In fact, a friend of mine who had been working there a while, and he was showing the signs of it. Me and him were talking. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to do my job, but I can't. And I told him, I said, go get a scuba suit. They make a scuba suit that's got feet in it, and it comes up, like waders would come up to here, right? They make a scuba suit you put in that's got feety in them, and you put the whole thing in, you zip up the back, and it comes all the way down here to the wrist. And that way you're sealed up from here down, and just put a lot of powder and say, dump baby powder, You say when I slid my feet into it, go, but you had to coat yourself in baby powder to get into the thing. But he told me that's what saved him from getting trench foot. Everybody else in that group got trench foot, but him, because of that. He said, I nearly sweated to death whenever we'd come out there when it warmed up. But during the winter, I was the only one that could walk around in that stuff and not get just frozen because of that wetsuit. Washburn Billy, thank you very much. You can soak your feet in vinegar. That's good to know. Thank you. Michigan Silverback. Cool. Yeah, I got them right over here, actually. I'm going to be doing more in depth with them a little later on. Are you a union boss? Nope, afraid not. Blackie, what will the temps for your spring gathering be generally? The temperature I'm looking for is 60s or low 70s during the day, and nights in the 50s, maybe upper 40s. That's the pressure, the temperature change I'm trying to stay within. Out of and way our springs are, it's like winter, winter, winter. Boop, it's summer. Literally, you go from air conditioner to heater in one day in the fall, and then when you flip it in spring, you're going heater, 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 and you're running an air conditioner at the end of the day, and then you never turn on the heater again. That's how you just flip down here. So. What's the best thing to get rid of fruit flies or gnats in a house? Okay, go get red cedar shavings. I've talked about this. You can often get them at pet stores because they're meant to go into a rabbit cage or something like that. But red cedar. Get a pair of pantyhose, put I would say like a football size pile into one of the legs of the pantyhose, cut it off, twist it up, go unscrew the air intake for your air conditioner where your filter goes, hang it on the inside, and then just hold the pantyhose up and close the door so it pinches it and screw the little thing closed. Turn your air on. It'll make the whole house smell like cedar, and no insect can stand the smell of it, and they'll get out of there. They'll leave the house. Flies, gnats, all that can't stand the smell of it, and they'll leave. So cedar shavings would be my choice. Frostbite, blisters in your throat, yeah. Cold air going down, actually freezing in your throat, yeah. When I went to Mount Washington in New Hampshire, I think it is, and that was the coldest place in the 48, and it's also the highest wind speed ever recorded outside of a tornado, 300 miles an hour, and that was not a hurricane, and that was not a tornado, but it's top of a mountain, and it's geology comes together to make a place that intense. And I put a radar unit on top of it at the ranger station. And when I went up there, it was 60 something below. It was not at the bottom of the mountain, it was like 45. But the wind and everything up there, and it was dead winter, and there was an Arctic blast going through. And when he called up, he said that, when you get up here, put your, there was a big old huge roll up doors, put the front of your 18 wheeler toward the blue door. Do not turn the truck off. Leave your heater running wide open. And I'll come up and put a big jacket up against your driver's side window, roll down, pull it in, roll your window up, put that jacket on. Do not talk. Do not open your mouth, period. Okay? And so whenever he got to me, he did that. And I put the jacket on, big old huge military Arctic type, made a little bitty hole about like that, and got out, and we went up there. 3 doors you went through to get inside. First door you came in, shut the door. Second door shut. Third door actually went into it. And he finally said, okay, now you can talk. And I said, why couldn't I talk? He said, because it's 68 below right now with wind chill, and you're from down south. Your teeth aren't used to it. And if you open your mouth, there's a chance your teeth may crack. Yeah. I've never been to that kind of cold before. Scuba dry suit. That's correct. Yep. Have a good night. Thanks for dropping in. Yes, red cedar. That's the reason they used to have cedar closets, cedar hope chest. No insect can stand the smell of cedar. And so red cedar shavings, that's the reason they make them to go into rabbit cages and things. It's get rid of fleas and stuff like that off of rabbits and or other small. So because of that, just hang it and let the cedar smell go through the house. It'll clean out insects. It'll get rid of roaches even. Down here where I'm at in the winter, you'll have the woods roach come under doors or something, come into a house, right? I'll hang them like that in the air intake and make the whole house smell like cedar. You won't have them. Even roaches won't come in because of that. I don't know if it'll run off ants, but it would, any kind of flying insect or bigger bug, yeah, there go. They'll get gone. We had back before they built this house and all behind us back here, back whenever that was just pasture. They used to have horse over there, and we'd have horse flies and stuff like that, and they'd get in the house. And I started doing the cedar bit, and forget it. They'd be at the door wanting out. You go open the door and zip, they'd leave. So it works. I have shot a 35 lean, and it did very well. I don't have that big a game to use on it down here, but for whitetails and stuff, 35 lean did very well, very well. And you're correct; it's a necked up 30-6 case up to 35. Well, guys, that's an hour and 52. We're gonna call it quits. That's right at 2 hours. I'm going to have to get up awful early. We're going to leave out of here 4 a.m. local time, heading to Georgia Bushcraft in the morning. So Blackie's going to take him a hot shower and probably, it is now 8:45 local time. So I plan on being in bed by 10. Guys, thank y'all so much. And thanks for all the birthday wishes. I appreciate it. And I will see y'all back on next Thursday night. Till then, God bless. Take care. Safe journeys, everybody.